Hello, what did everyone think? Let's just bring Don Coscarelli up. The mastermind behind John Dies at the End. Here he is.
All righty. Hey, thank you again. You're just too kind. You know, I'd like to, we have only one actor here, but he's maybe the most important actor in the movie. And he plays the meat monster. We actually have him here. He's a Chicago native. And it's his first role also, Mr. Ches Gagliardoni. And Ches, are you out there? Come on out and say hello. Very good. The meat monster. Good job, Ches. Some real subtle acting in there.
It's really no movie without the meat monster.
That is true.
You know, one of our other writers on our site said, I think he interviewed you, he said, this feels like a young man's movie. Did sort of latching yourself onto this story kind of feel like a rejuvenation of sorts and sort of tapping into something that might make that a true statement?
Well, I don't know. I guess I've always been accused of being a little immature. And, you know, I read this story and I was so impressed with the raw talent of the writers. First time novel, anything he'd ever written. David Wong, also known as Jason Pargin, is his real name. And, you know, he was, as he tells the story, he was just doing data entry down in central Illinois. I think, I forgot which town he's from, but it's a small town down there. And he started posting these stories onto the web. And I came to it when it was in a print on demand through this company called Permuted Press. You know, and I read it and I just had a really fresh attitude to it. It just seemed, it was funny as hell. It was also really scary. And, you know, two things that I like a lot. Yeah. And so I naturally gravitated to it. I guess, you know, trying to look for something a little different. You know, maybe, you know, for some people's taste it might be a little too different, but, you know, it's still, watching it today, there are parts that just make me laugh still.
Talk about, was it a big search to find your two leads, Chase and Rob? Was it a big, did you have to find just the right two guys who not only worked well with these characters, but worked well together? Because I think with a lot of great horror/comedies, you need like that sort of dynamic duo at the center of it. Was that a long, tough search?
Well, it was just a super important condition of making the film because we were so budget limited, and we had some of these really great cameo and supporting roles where we could conceivably bring in actors, you know, for 2 days or 3 days to play them and be able to afford. But for the entire movie, we did need to find unknowns. And it was something that weighed on me heavily during the casting process because I felt that, you know, to find somebody who hadn't really been in anything that could carry a movie might be impossible. And in fact, a true story was in the original arrangement with my partners on the movie who put up a chunk of the funding, was I had the option, if I didn't find the two guys who would work for cheap, that we would abandon the project. So it was something really concerned about, but looked far and wide, and we're just so fortunate because, you know, out of the blue one day, this young guy, Chase Williamson, who played Dave, walked in, and he had literally done nothing. I mean, he'd never been in a movie, never been in a TV series. I think he was in one project video, and he had graduated from the drama college at University of Southern California and gone to one interview and then come to ours. And I gave him the page of the narration, and he read it. And you know, as the director, you're really like the first audience in the movie. And I was listening to these young kids sitting there reading this narration. It was like the first time I went, oh, this could really be a cool movie. You know, and it's like, you know, you sit through all these actors who can't quite pull it off, and suddenly you find one that can. And similarly with Rob Mays, another inexperienced in many ways actor, but he just had just a warmth and just a comic nature that I just liked a lot. And you know, they're both really great guys, and were willing to put up with the difficulty of making, you know, an independent feature on modest means.
Speaking of which, I don't think when you look at older films, well, since digital effects have come into play, I don't think anything dates a movie like digital effects. But in so many ways, practical effects are almost timeless in a way. And I know you love them, and I know you use a little digital too, but tell me just about deciding what to use, and talk about the guys who did your practical effects on this, because those squishy things are just like, they look great, you know, when they're real.
Well, there's nothing like rubber, you're right. But really
private life too, by the way.
Really fortunate that actually tomorrow night we're going to screen an earlier film I did, Phantasm 2, and I was lucky enough to work with some really great prosthetic makeup effects guys on that, and they were apprentices on that film, and then they created this company, K&B Effects, and so yes, they deserve an applause. And so Bob Kurtzman, who's the K of K&B, who has since left K&B and actually has a shop in Ohio, in Columbus is where he works out of, has been a friend, and he had done the mummy for the movie we're going to see later, but he actually created the Bubba Hotep prosthetic rubber mummy, and the makeup for the actor in that. And so actually it was a real revelation. There are certain parts of them, you know, they're all just tools. You know, we try to find an effect that's going to work for the particular scene. And sometimes when you combine the effects, you can really get something better than either. And I think we'll start talking about Chez's scene with the meat monster. It's 100% prosthetic effect, except for that one little addition at the end when we've got the little animated trout moving up his back, which I thought added a nice touch.
That.
Yeah. But anyhow, so there's nothing like being able to make a movie where you have a man in a suit, and that's if you're not in the suit. So tell us about this, Chess. What's it like to put a turkey on your head for 12 hours a day?
Well, there wasn't a lot of air in the turkey, and there wasn't, I couldn't really see either, so it was really just, I hope to God I don't step on the camera, you know, it's like at your feet, and you're, you know, in this thing, and you've got, they seal you in with ice packs. Like I had all these ice packs in there,
I forgot about
and at
that.
first I was like, oh, this is terrible, no, this is freezing, like I can't, and then in a minute I was like so happy I had the ice packs. It just became a jungle in there. It was intense, yeah.
No, I can't remember. Did they outfit that so you could, like, if you had to urinate, you had like a tube or something? Or?
Or did
you just go in the suit?
I think I went with one, you know, there was a zip, like it came apart. I was lucky, like there are some suits where like you're just in it all day and you know, what happens, happens. But, you know, this, at least they could take the head off and they could take, you know, you could get me out of it relatively quickly without, you know, ruining the day's shots.
Yeah, the thing is that I just have to, and why Chez is even up here tonight with me, is that probably my favorite moment in the movie is when Dave hands him that cell phone and the meat monster takes it and like puts it to his ear and goes like this. And I didn't give him that direction. He came up with it on his own. And
I'm actually a nervous phone talker. I don't like people like listening to me on the phone because I'm self-aware that I sound like an idiot or something. So I'm always like, you know, get away. And then, yeah, I guess I just automatically thought to do that. That's just how I am on the phone.
I want to make sure the audience gets played, but I got one more question for you. We were talking about cast before. You have these unknowns, and then you have one very big known in your cast, Mr. Giamatti. Talk about your relationship with him, because I know you had talked about maybe using him in something else before this, but just talk about your hooking up with him and how did he, I know he's been a fan of yours for a long time, but
yeah, well, one night I got an email from a friend of mine, a horror director, Eli Roth, and you know, Eli is just a wonderful, exuberant, just so gung-ho about everything. You just can't not be excited when you're around Eli. And I get this email and it says, I'm over in Eastern Europe and I just had lunch with Paul Giamatti. And all he wanted to talk about was Bubba Hotep. And I'm like, okay, yeah, right, Eli. You know. But then I came to find out that he was a big fan of the movie. And so I got the opportunity to meet him. And while I was there, I was in the early process of, I don't want to give away too much for those of you who have not seen Bubba Hotep, but there was a plan to do a sequel to Bubba Hotep. And one of the things that I wanted to explore in that sequel was, to me, one of the most compelling relationships in Elvis's life, which was that, it wasn't Priscilla, it was his relationship with his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who had this Svengali-like control over Elvis, and you know, just caused all kinds of problems. The Elvis fans hate him and feel that he's the reason Elvis supposedly died because of the drugs, and allowed him to do that, and inhibited him in many ways. And I was sitting there with Paul, and I thought, oh, he would make a great Colonel Parker. And I threw out this idea that maybe he might join us in a sequel. And he was just gung-ho for it because, you know, the thing is that all he ever gets from his managers are those things like Sideways, you know? Nobody ever, well, I shouldn't say that because he just got cast in the Amazing Spider-Man sequel, where he's gonna play the Rhino character, which should be amazing. But in any case, Paul was all over that, and we spent a little time. He has a production company, and they made some really interesting films like Cold Souls, and they got a new one coming out called Lucky Dog with Paul Rudd and Giamatti, where they play French-Canadian Christmas tree salesmen in some kind of heist movie. I mean, it sounds great. But so he's been doing some interesting stuff, and he offered to help get the Bubba thing going. But unfortunately, we were not able to pull it together. In the meantime, I'd come across the John Dye's project, and I gave it to him, and his response was that he would be happy to play any role in the movie. He liked the script. And so then he came on. Now this brought me to the most possibly terrifying moment in the making of the movie, because I've got this young actor, Chase Williamson, who's never been in anything. And the way the schedule works out, day one of shooting, Chase has to walk into the Chinese restaurant, do 8 pages of dialogue with the great Paul Giamatti. And as a director, you're thinking, oh my God, he's gonna wilt under pressure. The movie's gonna crash and burn on the first day. And that was one of the great surprises, and where I really felt like I could complete the movie and make something pretty decent, because Chase was just so on, and Paul was so helpful in keeping his nerves calm and keeping him focused, and it just came out well.
All right, we have mics, or a mic at least, in the audience. So if anyone has questions, wait for the microphone. Over there.
All right, hi guys.
Hello.
Question. What is the perspective kind of situation with possibly a sequel based off of the second novel that follows John Dies at the end? This book is full of spiders.
Well, you need to complete the entire title. The entire title is, this book is full of spiders. Seriously, dude, don't touch it. Which is, you know, I thought John Dies at the End might be the greatest title for a piece of literature, but the new one may be even better. Look, it's obviously very premature. You know, it's our first day of opening. Thank you for even considering that there might be a sequel. That's great. So, for there to be a sequel, we're going to need you to come back and watch the movie, buy a ticket 3 more times, and then when the DVD comes out, you're going to have to probably buy 4 or 5 copies. And then if everybody in this theater and everyone does that, then we could think about it. But obviously, we had this great source novel, and we left about 2/3 of it on the side. And then we've got this wonderful new novel sequel that's available. So there are all kinds of possibilities for that kind of thing, and I'd certainly be into it. And I don't know if we brought the meat monster back, children.
I'm down.
Yeah, turkey monster. Okay, he wants to play. He's going to move up to the turkey monster. Okay. Right. Thanks, Rat, for suggesting that idea. Yeah, we'll if it's possible, for sure.
Hold on. Just watching. There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
When you read the book, what was your probably the funniest scene you thought happened that didn't make it into the movie?
I really, see, there were some wonderful ideas that would just mess the structure up. There were two of them, one not so funny that we had to leave behind, which is, and by the way, if you like the movie, I highly recommend, if you haven't read the book, you'd really enjoy the book. There's a lot more into it. First off, there's a subtext at the end of the book where Dave has this memory that there was a dead body buried somewhere and he felt that he might have contributed to the death of it, and he finally comes back to the dead body. And meanwhile, in the other world, in Eyes Wide Shut world, they're cloning humans, and the way you can tell that they're clones is there's this certain tattoo on the heel. So Dave finally gets back, digs the body up, and it turns out it's himself. But it's got, and it doesn't have the tattoo. And then he checks his shoe and he's got the tattoo. So I really like that a lot, but it required so much, it would have, back to my theory about the shelf life of the human ass. It just, we couldn't have, it would have added another 10 or 20 minutes. But there are a load of other really wonderful ideas in the book, but couldn't do it.
Hi. So